Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining our daily digital coffee breaks. Super happy to have you here. I'm very excited today just because we'll be co-animating this with my lovely colleague Ray, who is events assistant. Today, we'll be talking about managing communications during COVID-19 and having a look at the brands who are getting it right. So yeah, thanks again for joining. Here's my cup of coffee. I hope you have yours. And let's talk about digital things. Okay, so you may have seen me from some previous episodes of the Daily Digital Coffee Talks. My name is Caroline. I'm Sales Enablement Manager at Make Me Reach. And today I'll be co-animating this coffee break with Roy, who is Event Assistant at Make Me Reach. So thanks again for joining me, Ray,
Hi.
and he'll be taking over from now.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the communication strategy across all the networks. So as we know, like social media are becoming the front line for information, especially about this coronavirus situation. And I believe for all the brands and retailers, you must have like your own plan for your digital strategy before this situation happened. But the challenge that we are facing now is how can you adapt your strategy into this uncertainty? So no matter which networks you are in, we like gather some a broad idea and the things you have to pay attention to for like all the channels, the entire like the communication strategy. So first one, we think you should always keep an eye on the updating social media policies involving COVID-19 information. So for example, like for Facebook, they have like banned certain ads during the outbreak, and for like Twitter, they have also like constantly updated like a guideline for brands and for people to post information around COVID-19. And also for Pinterest, they just launched like a new feature called our Today tab. So basically it's a source that people can find all the inspiration and information around this topic. And for the second thing we want you to pay attention to is you should choose the best network for your COVID-19 communication format. And for example, if you want to use like Instagram, Facebook, maybe you should like do a live streaming thing. And also like we covered this topic last week. So if you want to know like how can you like build a really good live streaming strategy, please just go to our YouTube channel and you can just, to like review like our record before. And for the third part, we think you really should plan ahead. So most of people, like most of the brands maybe like become more like passive, to react to the situation because like everything is changing and you're always like just trying to adapt to the situation. But what we want you to think is what will your business be in maybe 2 months or like 3 months later, and how can you keep your social media channel connecting with people constantly, keep your communication flowing. And you have to remember that you should avoid being disappeared during this time because that will like cause like a huge damage to your brand reputation. So for the next few slides, we are going to like talk about like the best practice and the trends on different channels. So first one is on Twitter. We all know like Twitter is the place people like share the trend and the newest the newest information. So for this one, we gather some like best practice and we organize like their common like insights to share with you. The first one, we think before you start your communication strategy, you really should keep in mind that what's actually needed right now and what do people really need to know and what are they looking for, and also what can be really helpful to them as they are seeking to understand like the changing situation of their business and their brand. And we think there might be like 2 situations you are facing now. The first one is maybe your brand is likely to suffer a significant impacts as a result of all of these changes. So in this occasion, maybe you can try to think like in a more broad way, and maybe you can try to find ways to engage in a like more like a local community. But what if like there is in the other occasion, it's like if there is a way which your business can look to provide help or like support, you should definitely to like post this kind of really like positive message to tell people that your business and your brands really care about the situation. They really want to do something to make it better. And the second thing, we think like you should really offering options to make people being engaged. So like we can see like example on the slides, this brand rebook, I think everybody knows it. We can notice that they open like this like kind of like open talk, like to make people leave a message or like just tell them what kind of training you want to do, so they can after schedule it online. So this is like a really good interaction on Twitter. And the third part I want to cover is you still should be like be creative at this time. We all know like creativity is like the core value of the social media advertising and the social media communication. So we can see like the picture on the right of the slides. This is a brand called No Name. So this No Name is a Canadian grocery retailer and provider. So basically they launched like this kind of activity called 20-second hand washing timer. So this is kind of like a creative idea, and that can make people really engage with them, like to really like trying to participate inside of your communication. So for the next slides, I'm going to talk about the trends on Pinterest. So Pinterest also have provided a like set of tips to help brands that are looking for maintain audience connecting amid the COVID-19 crisis. But we all know that creating content during a crisis can be a little bit tricky, because on the one hand, if you're failing to acknowledge the current situation, it can feel like a tone deaf. But on the other hand, without dedicated touch, or if you just like copy some information or just repeat it again and again, people will feel bored and maybe they won't like follow you anymore. So as we all know, like Pinterest is a place people are trying to looking for inspiration and looking for creative idea. So at this time, brands can play a really important role to provide like reliable resources and to inspire people around your business. So the first one, we think for all the brands, you should be honest with yourself and be honest with your customers. So that is to say, first, you have to think, you should take an honest look at your brand and the role it plays in customers' lives. So it's important to think critically about what your brand has an authority to speak on and what it doesn't have. So if your business is really related to like people's life or like in some specific aspect of people's life, you should definitely post something around it. And the second point is you should try to ease the attention of the people, because during this time, painters are changing their daily habits. So according to the Pinterest research, they have seen a search volume spike in areas like working from home and family health and emotionally well-being, and like how can you deal with like a bored kid, this kind of thing. So we really think like you should try to provide some information and ideas, but without directly mentioning COVID-19, because now it's kind of like an information overloaded situation. So it's better just to like show some best practice. So as we can see in the slides, this one is the page from the IKEA. So basically they just show like a really good idea, like how can you set up your home office. So this is really good, really good point. Like people can find their inspiration here, and they always also feel like they are involved in your communication. And the last part, we think you should trying to make your brands being more inclusive, because at this moment you have to think through all the possible circumstances. As we all know, like maybe most of people, they are working from home, but there are still some other occasions, like maybe people they cannot like work like or like they cannot like work properly at home. Maybe they have like share a room with someone, or maybe they don't have like really perfect and cozy like office room, or don't have like a cozy place. So you also think to to care about them. So you have to show your empathy for a range of circumstances and to make your brands and the information more inclusive. And for the next slides, it's Facebook. And earlier this week, we saw like Facebook reported that it's seeing record high level of demand for its services amid the rolling COVID-19 lockdown across the world. So basically, Facebook have done a lot like to trying to, to keep the business running and to keep people, still like can using this useful network to connect it with brands or like with everyone. So we think like it's still maybe you will think about maybe it's not a really good time to run a campaign or run an ad on Facebook because that the results will like be really bad or like maybe like drop to the bottom line. But what we want to say like you also should like focus on the benefits you may get from it. So the first one is like because we all know like digital attention is like at an all-time high. People, they are all at home, they spend more time on mobile. That means like it's like more possible for them maybe to reach your brand or like maybe it's more possible for them to consume your ads, like consume your information. So that's why you also like should maybe running an ad or running a campaign because that will lead to a lower overall operating cost for a campaign. And for the second point is, many of your competitors, maybe they will like posing for their ad, campaign on Facebook because, everything's uncertain. So maybe they just choose to stop or like something like that. But this is also like an opportunity for you if you still keep your communication running on Facebook. So basically people will get like more chance to see your information than your competitor. And for the third one, at this moment, we all know like this crisis thing is kind of like sensitive. But another thing you can do is maybe you can try to push some of your brand awareness campaign or ads because it's like it's information with low cost objective, so you can just easily to like generate your brand awareness among all the customers. And the last point I want to say is if you have the opportunity to serve people now, you may win business after. So as we can see, the example in the slides, this Bearish Box, they are also one of our clients. And we can see like they have this activity, like if you are people who working in the medical system, you can just send us like a request. We will send you a free box, just to like keep you health and maybe just to try some products, and it's kind of like to cheer them up. So maybe it seems like you serve people now, you help people now. Maybe you cannot see like a direct conversion, but maybe after this period of time, if you really build a really good brand reputation, you will win business after this crisis and you will see like a longer, I would say like increase later. So I will let my lovely colleague Gaho to continue for the webinar.
Great. So very much like on Facebook, Instagram has been the place for brands to explore, engage with their audiences. So here we have an example of Nike communicating in the brand voice, supporting their consumer base and urging them to stay at home, making it a real team effort. Other trends that we have seen on Instagram are live events with live fashion shows from brands such as Monkey, for example, or even live takeovers from artists. I think yesterday on the Urban Outfitters channel, they had Alec Benjamin performing. So brands are getting more and more creative and really trying to keep the link and the conversation with their audiences going. Some other brands are also going for it and playing games with their audiences. So here we have an example from Oreo, who has a great, wonderful Instagram account, or even ASOS, for example, who had creative games available to engage with their fan base. So as the creative network, it's not a surprise to see brands multiplying efforts in keeping their audience engaged, and they're 100% right in doing so. This is a time where branding campaigns do go a long way, and there's definitely a trend from shifting from heavy performance heavy campaigns to a lot more branding and opening up conversations with your audiences. So the next network that has trends that we're going to talk about is Snapchat. So let's keep in mind that Snapchat has one of the youngest audiences of any social media platform. So this is definitely where you'd want to reach your Gen Z. It reaches 90% of 13 to 24 years old. So this is an example from the brand EA, Electronic Arts. So they launched a campaign on Snapchat for The Sims 4 as people huddled indoors during the pandemic. So the idea of this is to have AR lenses and pets so that people can engage from home with the brand, all the while gamifying it totally. So as more and more people have self-isolated, Snap has seen a huge surge in downloads for the Snap camera desktop computer software, or even mobile. So we can definitely see it being a huge trend on Snapchat, and using any visual or creative element to boost the interaction. So to sum up Snapchat, they're keeping it interactive. If you're a brand who is able to do that, don't be afraid to be creative and to, put new ideas out, just like EA is keeping their audiences entertained, engaged, and staying at home. So where do we come in all of this? On Make Me Reach, the idea of our solution is really to centralize all of your campaigns. As more and more brands are testing new things, trying new formats, putting out new messages, it is of utmost importance to know what does work, what doesn't work, and what you should keep honing. So through our solution, you'd be able to have multi-network management, so really see and visualize your results holistically for all of these different networks. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, Google. So yeah, most importantly, understand what resonates and keep the conversation going with your audiences. So thanks again for joining our daily digital coffee break. It was so nice to have you here. Thanks again, Ray, for joining me in presenting
Thank you.
today's episode. And don't be afraid to be as creative as your brand allows you to engage with your audiences. If you guys have any thoughts, any ideas, or want to talk about this, I'm more than happy to do so. This is my email, so please feel free to write back to me. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and have a great sunny afternoon.